welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, August 17th. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing
Good,
great.
Rocco. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Good to be here.
Very good.
All right, can we get a confirmation from chat about the mic levels from me and everybody else so that they're not completely different? And we will continue on. All right, this week, or actually for the last 2 weeks, we have been trying out Endeavor OS. Last week we had Brian on, and we had some good comments about it, but there are other people that want to get their comments in on it. So, Nate, did you go last week?
I did not. I wasn't here
You
last
are
week.
up, sir.
All right. So Endeavor OS. Now I just wrote something to put on to publish, and when I went to hit publish, something went goofy with WordPress, and I lost everything. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh no!
So somehow I'm gonna have to recreate it. Anyway, it'll be fine. So I love WordPress. It's great. All right. So there are actually a lot of things I really like about Endeavor OS. The installation was very straightforward. It was easy to do. It was kind of easy to get going. And my only, I think I did say it on the European edition last week, but my only hang up was there's not really, it's not defined how to search for packages. So that's easy to do. I had it on my post, but that's all gone, but I'll put it back. So it's actually, it works very well. The installer, not the installer, but the updater, it's nice, and it tickles my nerdy nerve endings. So I really enjoy that. Now, there are some things I don't like about it. One, it's based on Arch. And there's not really a good, the QA in Arch is very spotty at best. Like I've done a lot of reading as to how do they actually do quality assurance in the software they kick out, and I can't find anything really good that actually says, well, this is our process. So it's a community involved process that does that. And also they rely a lot on the upstream projects to actually do a lot of the QA before they can, kick it out. So in the end, what I have to say is the Endeavor has made huge strides in getting Arch closer to what I would consider a sustainable product. I still think it's too much like flying a helicopter with a wonky tail rotor through a storm on a half full tank of fuel, and so it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong, because it's Arch, and I don't care what anybody says. There's no good quality assurance. It's not a sustainable ecosystem as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you're on top of it and you stay, you monitor every single little aspect of it, yeah, that's great. But outside of that, I don't see Arch as being a product I would use.
So what you're saying is it's not going to take...
Endeavor's great.
It's not going to overtake OpenSUSE is what you're saying.
Honestly, Arch should be the last thing I would use. Maybe Gentu's right below it, but I think Arch should be the last thing I would use, honestly. So I think anything out there is a better option. So
because he views the world through green tinted glasses.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Nate. You let us know when you recover that blog post, and
it's gone.
Then we can look at it.
I have to recover it out of here. I had some real shiners in there too.
Well, that's why you should actually put it in another file and then cut and paste in. That's what I do. Otherwise, I've had that happen to me.
Yeah,
so,
that's a great idea. First time.
That's how I do it. And then
Nate,
I'm changing my workflow. Thanks, Barb.
you're welcome. For the better.
That's a
it
buzzword.
runs on Arch. Cubicle Nate, immediate dislike.
That's a buzzword that doesn't exist, Nate.
That's a buzzword.
I think the reason why I do things that way is because my original training with computers was on mainframes. And if you didn't save all the time, most of the time you lost anything you did. So I just do that.
It told me it saved. It actually told me it saved, and I had, so it just totally,
Don't trust it.
WordPress.
Now you've learned.
It's called a human error.
Not necessarily.
All right. Peter, we will come back around to you for your final thoughts. We We have Tony Hughes here for the first time. Welcome to Biddle.
Thank you, Rocco. Yeah, it's really great to be here.
It is about time.
I specially stayed up. Or actually, I didn't. I actually went and had a couple of hours kit before the show.
That's a must, Tony.
Yeah. Until 3 weeks ago, I'd never even touched Arch. So when everyone started talking about Endeavour, I thought I'll give this a shot for my show. And I actually installed it before you guys had chosen it as your current kind of distribution that you were going to test out. And I've got to say, I would have agreed with Nate up until 3 weeks ago. Being a dev man, I'd never looked at much else. But I've got to say, I'm really impressed with this. Like I say, I installed it on bare metal about 3 weeks ago. And today I actually spun up the new ISO just to test whether the bugs had come out of the ISO for the auto login wasn't working properly. Well, that's now fixed. And it's been rock solid. I got all my software up and running, even my beloved Get iPlayer. You can actually install it out the box. Which on a lot of distros you've got to go into package management system and get all the repos installed and all that, but not here. It just installs straight out the box. I've had all my software working and everything has been stable as anything, and I could see myself using this as a daily driver. If my current OS of choice, which is Mint, ever went away, I could see myself using this as a daily driver. It is fantastic. I really love what the devs have done on this.
Yep, actually, that login problem was one of the things that I had mentioned last week, so that's good to know that they fixed that. The running Arch is not something that I would recommend everybody to do. You have to be ready to fix problems when they come up. This makes it so much easier to be introduced to Arch if you're willing to take the time to learn what you need to learn to maintain Arch while using it. So this is a big step forward into having people take that next step. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I even actually had to go at installing Arch the Arch way the other day. It actually failed. I actually managed to get the install working, but then it told me there was a dependency missing when I went to look for the Wi-Fi menu. There was some dependency missing, so I couldn't get onto the internet to do the update afterwards. But, I'll give it another go at some stage. But I've learned loads over the last 3 weeks about how to use, Linux in general. It's just made me less wary of using the command line and stuff like that. It's fantastic.
Cool. Sounds good. And you're saying that it gives you an easy in to the Arch systems, and it certainly does. But then it also gives you the complete opposite experience of what Arch is meant to be, because the Telegram group is friendly, the discourse forum are friendly. Everybody just wants to help. So,
I 100% agree with you there, Zeb. 100%. Yeah. I've had loads of help and loads of encouragement on all the different channels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. All right. So, Tony number 2, did you go last week?
Yes, I did. I went.
You did. All right, Carl. Thanks. Colin, I don't think you went last week, did you?
Yes, I did have some things to say. I've got one question, but I'd like to leave it. I'll just let everyone else have their say first.
All
just
right,
wanted to bring something up for discussion, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. No worries at all. Paul, did you get your mic working? We'll take that as a no. Okay. Eric?
Yes, so I did get a chance to to test, and I'm not a huge fan of XFCE. So what I did instead was to install Cinnamon, and then I was able to get the Mint themes on there and basically just make a bit of a Mint clone. And yeah, I mean, it all seems to work well from an installer perspective. I appreciate that they got a new ISO out. I mean, I don't, until the live installer, which I think is sort of the secret sauce of what, I know it's not a continuation of it. It's what I thought Antergos was special for. Once that's available, then I think that's really when I'll see this as like, I guess, a final thing. So if I have any kind of criticism at this point, it's just if you're not using XFCE and you don't find the install of that particularly helpful or interesting, then really what you're getting is just a base system that you then have to do things to. And again, I think what made it excuse me, what made Antergos special was that when I was booting it, I could just pick whatever desktop I wanted, and it did all of that work for me. And then I had an Arch system with minimal packages on top of it. So I'm very much looking forward to that and seeing where the team ends up with that. And for now, it all just seems to work well. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Excellent. Sounds really good. Chris, I know you didn't go last week because you hadn't had a chance to have a go at it. So what can we do for you?
Well, let's see. I did have it installed, but I was going to try to do some extra stuff with it and that's why I wanted to go this week. But the install I found was interesting. Everything was going fine until I went to partition the drive, and it took a little bit of scratching my head and figuring out, oh, okay, that we go in, partition the drive, then go in to gparted and assign the partitions the various flags that you need. And that just was a little bit weird, but you know, that's growing pains. As far as using XS, or I can never say it, XFCE, FE.
XFCE, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I kind of like the lightweightness of it, especially on the older hardware that I run the stuff on. It is rather plain, but I mean, it gives you a nice platform that you can build anything you want on it. So you can jazz it up any way you want, or you can have it just basically functional. So that works. Now, far as the GUI and a standard user interface, is pretty good. I liked it. It was relatively easy to find things. I didn't have a problem with it until I tried to install Linux. I mean, Lazarus. Jeez, I'm doing well today. I'm sorry, people. Lazarus, as Barb knows, is a Delphi-like programming environment that allows you to create GUI Pascal programs, object Pascal programs, and I live and die by that on my daily workflows. And so when I tried to install it, it said it installed. I couldn't find it anywhere. Tried to do a search, couldn't find the search. Didn't see it in the libraries. Couldn't find it in any spot. Tried installing it again. Tried to removing it. It said it didn't exist. Tried reinstalling it. It said it installed. Still couldn't find it. Now, that was about the only package that I had a problem with. And far as Free Pascal, which is what Lazarus is based off of, Free Pascal installed without a problem, and I was able to do the old Turbo Pascal 7 type of programming, which was fine. You know, for the test, that it worked out fine. However, Lazarus, I still don't know where it is on the system. I can't seem to find it. Then I decided, let's get a little more brave, and I tried compiling the kernel. The current unstable release is 5.something.9, and I pulled that down, and I ran into some problems because I don't know if it's this version of Arch. I don't know if Endeavor is actually responsible for this or what. When I tried to do a bunch of make files, could not find CPIO. And so, and then there's a couple other problems that I have not had a chance to chase down. But because this was getting time for Big Daddy Linux Live, I said, okay, we'll just chalk that up as an educational failure. So I was not able to compile a kernel. I was not able to install Lazarus, but other than that, I don't really have a problem with it. I don't think I would use it as a daily driver, at least not in the current incarnation. Maybe when the developers get a chance to address some of the more esoteric things that just kind of bother me, not necessarily cause make or break the deal. I might take another look at it, but in its current version, it's nice, but it's not something I'd use.
Sure. So, Chris, did you? I'm assuming you're going to say you installed Lazarus with pacman-s Lazarus, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Try the yay command, YAY, and then Lazarus. You then get to choose, I don't know, about 4 or 5 different versions. And I've just installed Lazarus GTK2, and it's in the menu.
Okay. And then that's probably
so, and for me, yay, you just get better options to choose because with Pacman, you just get the one that's in either I think they have a hierarchy of their main, community, extras, and all the rest of it, and you just get the one that's in their top repo. With Yay on Lazarus, there are 11 different things that you can install from either the community and or the AUR. And as I said, I just chose Lazarus GTK2. I have no idea what to do with it, but it's in the menu.
Yeah,
so okay. Worthwhile giving it another go.
Okay, yeah, it just came up with a bunch of options, so I'll check that out. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, Joshua, did you have a chance to try it last week or this week?
I already went last week.
You already went. Good man. But, and I saw you getting excited just because Eric mentioned cinnamon. Okay, Frank.
But oh, okay, never mind.
We'll probably get back to that, Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all cool. Frank, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, I'm here. I went last week. So
you went last week.
Wrap
okay.
it up later.
Okay, Aris, I think you went last week as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You did. Steve, welcome. I don't think you went last week because I didn't see you.
No, I don't think I was here last week.
Yeah, cool. So did you try Endeavor?
I did. I actually tried it about the same time that Tony Hughes did. When all the hubbub was happening, I installed it before you guys picked it for your distro challenge. And so I've been running it on one of the machines that I have for a few weeks. I haven't used it a whole lot. I just have a couple of things that I'd like to say about the distro. First of all, I'm not an Arch guy and I'm not an XFCE guy. However, I would definitely consider using Endeavor probably long term if it was one of the only options I had. There's so many options in Linux though. I think I've discovered something about myself because of Endeavor. I don't think I'm a specific DE guy. I think I just like it when a distro really does a beautiful job putting together a desktop environment. And I think the Endeavor devs have done an awesome job of putting together a beautiful XFCE desktop. I found it to be very usable, very easy to navigate around, very enjoyable to use. About the only thing I'd probably get bored with is the wallpaper after a couple of weeks, and that's about the only thing I would ever choose to change. And I think that's true of a bunch of distros. I think that's one of the reasons I like Ubuntu Mate. It's just awesome implementation of Mate. I tried installing other DEs, and I discovered since you're just installing the vanilla versions of all those desktop environments that haven't been tweaked a whole lot since they're straight out of the Arch repos, I didn't find that very exciting at all. My son actually has been running Endeavor every day on his brand new Dell refurbished, new to him, Dell refurbished laptop. And really enjoys it an awful lot. It's his second love now next to MX Linux. And the other thing that I was glad to hear about is that they're really promoting a positive, welcoming community. I haven't really interacted with the community yet, but I think that's great that they're focusing on that welcoming community. And I would kind of hope that, and this is maybe different from what Eric said earlier, but I kind of hope that they strongly consider just sticking to doing the best XFCE implementation you possibly can on the Arch platform. I think that's where they would really make some traction and differentiate themselves among all of the plethora of Arch distros that are out there right now. If they really just focused on doing the awesome job that they've already done in providing a beautiful XFCE desktop, especially since being Arch, they're going to have the newest version of XFCE on there. If in fact, it's probably on there already. I didn't check.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that would be a great thing for them to focus on and not get into the watering down unless your community is big enough. I mean, if your community is big enough, like Ubuntu, where you can have the different flavors, or Fedora that has the different spins, great, go ahead and do that. But if your community is still on the small side, focus on that one desktop environment. Just do it extremely well and better than all the others. And I think that's where you can get some real traction as a small shop distro.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Yeah, well, just to shoot that option down, they are in fact going to be bringing an online installer, and that you will be able to choose one of 10 desktops, 10-ish. But what they're going to do before they put that out is the same guy who did XFCE is going to do his same tweaks to the other desktops. So you get that, like you said, you put on Cinnamon, and it's just the plain nothing Cinnamon. Well, by the time this guy's finished, it will be the Endeavor Cinnamon. So hopefully it will look as slick and nice and smooth flowing as the XFCE. But I think you could be right. If they just stuck to XFCE, it could rival Manjaro quite easily.
Well, I mean, both, if you look at it, both ways are exciting to think about. If they went with the online installer and they had every desktop out there, that's an exciting thing. But that's a ton of work to keep up with. I mean, to customize each desktop environment, that's a ton of work. But if they also went the other direction with just using XFCE, like you said, Steve, that would be a great thing too. They've done so much good work already. I don't see how it couldn't get any better.
And they're on such a nice, stable, platform, being on XFCE as well. I just think they could really define themselves as, hey, come over here. Here's an easy install for Arch, which I appreciate because I'm not one to get into Arch normally. But here's an easy install on a nice, stable DE. It's beautifully themed. You can come over here, have a great time in the Arch world.
Yep. Agreed. Dave, you went last week, right?
Yeah, but I want to take a couple of exceptions. One to Cubicle Nate and him perpetuating that myth that Arch is not stable still. I've been running Arch and OpenSUSE concurrently for the last 6 months, and they are equally stable. So to say that Arch is not stable unless you constantly keep up with it has become a myth. It is no longer true.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 80,000 oddball apps, maybe you might get a smidge of instability if you don't update for a month. But for a normal user, for a regular install, Arch is rock solid, just like OpenSUSE. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I don't know that I would agree that I would recommend Endeavor as a first Arch distro for somebody, only because they don't flesh out all the regular like Office apps and multimedia apps that something like a Manjaro will. For people who have used Arch before, I think it is a fabulous base that makes it a really simple install, a really solid install that you can build what you want from it. So as a second Arch distro, I would totally recommend it. I don't know that I would recommend it to somebody coming to Arch for the first time, only because it would basically dump you into the middle of the pool in that you have to immediately sort out how to go about installing all the apps that you want and finding the apps that you want, rather than having a more complete base to work from.
And it doesn't have a software center either, so that would be confusing for people as well.
Right. So, but as an Arch distro, I think it's one of the best out there. I think they have done a fabulous job, and it's rock solid. It's still running on my laptop next to me. And it sat for a week, didn't touch it, fired it up, did an update, updated to the new kernel, updated to the new XFCE. Everything was flawless, not a hint of a problem. So I'm still thrilled with them.
Mm-hmm. Quick one on you, that one, Colin. Are you classing PAMAC and or Octopi as software centers?
No, there's out of the box. There's no software center at all. So if you did a search for software,
I don't know an Arch install that does one.
Manjaro wouldn't they?
No, they do Pacman.
Oh, they don't have a software center. They have PAMAC.
They do PAMAC, which for me is the equivalent of Synaptic.
Yeah, but a new user wouldn't know what to do to install PAMAC.
Absolutely. But as I say, I've never come across an Arch install of any flavor that had an actual software center.
True. That's a fair comment, actually. Yeah.
So I think they're more in line with Synaptic than an actual GNOME software or Mint software centers.
Salient, I believe, had something like Synaptic in it, actually.
It just does PAMAC. PAMAC and Yay.
Okay.
You can Pac-Man Classic PAMAC, and it'll put the classic GUI in for you.
Yeah, but it's not really a software center per se. It's more like Synaptic.
Yeah, it's not like GNOME software or Discover or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are some good points, Dave. Very good points. Barbara, did you go last week?
No, I didn't.
Then go right ahead.
Okay. I actually did install it on one of my multiple extra machines, it seems I have. And yeah, I've been like going through the ones that weren't working, and I took them apart, cleaned them and everything, so now they're working again. I did install it. And first of all, I mean, the installation went very, very well, but I think it could be confusing at first because you've got the two little options. One is partition drive, and then you have the install. And when I looked at it, I thought, oh, you have to run that first. You don't really, because you can actually do the partitioning right during the install. So I discovered that. So I thought that was not, and I installed it on a machine that had two drives, and it did very, very well.
Shall I tell you why they did that, though, Barbara? Because there was an inherent problem with the Calamares installer that on some systems it bought partitioning.
That makes sense then. But it did partition perfectly for me. Then another thing is, so that was just the installation went very, very nicely. I agree. The desktop itself is beautiful, and it's clean, and it works, and they did a really nice job with that. One thing that happened to me when I was installing it is that every time it partitioned a drive or created a partition that I told it to do, it beeped. So I thought that was the most bizarre. I've never seen that happen before. Maybe it was just my equipment. I don't know. But it would beep. So I had two drives, and one had 3 partitions and one just had the home partition. And I got 4 beeps, which I just thought was very weird. But anyway, everything worked fine. So I thought, okay, that's just the way it is. Another thing that, okay. Yes. This was something. The first time I rebooted it after installing, it was fine. I did just played around with it and then just shut it down. And then I installed it again. I'm not installed it again. I loaded it up again. I rebooted it. And then I said, okay, let me try the power button. The power button doesn't come up with the shutdown menu the second time. And it didn't after that at all. So I thought that's kind of like an oops. I mean, yeah, you can go into the menu itself and shut things and tell it to shut down. But it's nice to be able to press the power button and just have it come up with that. And the other thing that I think, even if it's for somebody who is new to Arch, is, and I know we've just discussed this was not having a software center of any type, not even one that was like the one that you guys mentioned that's like Synaptic. I think even if they had something like that installed, I think that would help, because I'm going, there's no software center. How am I going to do stuff? I don't even know what command. I'm going to have to go look up what the command line commands are to install software, because that's nowhere.
That's because they don't have one.
Right, I know. And I don't even know what didn't know what the command was to install software. I had to go and look it up online. They don't have that anywhere.
Yeah, and that's a deliberate choice. They wanted people to learn the Arch way, but give them an easy in to Arch.
Yeah. But I think still having an option for something like something equivalent to even Synaptic would have been better than having nothing. And not even having something that says, oh, you need to use this command to install additional programs. That would have helped. But other than that, I think it was nice. It didn't crash. It didn't trash my grub. I didn't have boot barf or anything else like that I had with Antragos back early in the year and end of last year. Would I use it? Probably not. I mean, I just thought it was really, really nice. And if you want to get into using Arch, it's probably an ideal way to go. I have never tried Manjaro, so I don't know. I can't make that comparison. But they did a really nice job. And I agree that maybe they should make the best XFCE implementation for Arch. I think that because they've done such a beautiful job with what they have done.
It's not Pac-Man or
not me.
Not me.
I think that's Paul. Is like his.
Okay. That takes us back to the 1980s game.
Yeah, I heard it before.
So anyway, so those are my things, and other than that, I think they should keep on plugging away, and they'll have a nice version.
Excellent.
In case any of them are listening and I forget to do it on the Endeavor discourse, following Barb's suggestion, I think like a welcome screen, like some of the other distros have that just explain the basic install commands would be very helpful.
I thought they had something pop up originally.
They have a welcome screen, but it doesn't have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're talking about sending it to the section of the wiki page that talks about software installation.
Yeah, but I think if they had it at the bottom, just so you could get a few things going, it would make it a lot better.
Yeah,
I think that's a great suggestion, actually.
Yeah, or even including it as an option in the favorites. When you first click on the Endeavor menu, there's something that says how to install software.
Because I looked all over and I said, how do I do this? I have no idea. I know it's not a Debian-based system, so I know I'm not going to be able to use apt or apt-get or whatever, and it's not an OpenSUSE, so I couldn't, find Yast somewhere and be able to do it that way, or just use Zipper. So, I mean, so I've used different ones. I just didn't even know what to look for. And they really do need something more than what they did. Other than that, it ran well, and it was nice.
Best suggestion I can give for anybody who has questions about an Arch-based system, just whatever your question is, put it into the search field, followed by space Arch Wiki, and it will get you to the information you need.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, Dan, did you go last week?
Yeah, but I do have some Arch questions.
Go on then.
Okay. The PAMAC and the AUR are two separate repositories that update separately, correct?
Correct.
PAMAC is not actually a repository. It's software to access the repositories.
Yeah, it's just a front end like Synaptic.
Well, I had a weird thing after the show last week on Sunday happened to me is I had several of my packages or software or apps or whatever you want to call them break after an update. And it was an update through PAMAC, not through Yay. And the system didn't fail. It's just that I had a web browser now that would no longer work. I had a media player that wouldn't work. I had like 4 things that wouldn't work after an update. And I know which files that got mixed up or corrupted or because it said they were missing.
Okay, quick question for you. In PAMAC, did you enable the AUR?
And
did you enable the thing that says update from the AUR, which is dangerous?
I didn't enable anything, but to install my AUR packages, I use the yay command.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Because in PAMAC, you can enable the AUR. So when you search for something, it will find AUR packages as well. But there's also another button that I really think shouldn't be there, and it should be part of you have to go and mess with the config. You can update from the AUR. But what happens there is if somebody puts into the AUR a very specific system program, and it's newer than what's in Arch, it will update to that, and then before you know it, the whole system's gone. So never update from the AUR unless you're going to be specifically updating packages that you have installed.
Yeah, because that's what I got the feeling that happened is when I updated from the regular Arch repositories, whatever I got from the AUR got stuffed with newer packages, so the whole app stopped working.
Wow. Different. Yeah, not come across that before.
I just wanted to ask that question. That's all.
It's like a helicopter.
Yeah. I've been through this with Manjaro, except I've had complete failures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering whether you updated in between updates, like from one update to another. I'm just wondering.
That little blinking A down in the systems tray, when it's blinking and it says it wants something, I usually click on it and it updates.
Well, that's the thing I like about the Endeavour version. If you click on that A or right click on that A, you can do an upgrade simulation, which will run through the whole update, but not actually do it. It will just pretend to do it. So had you managed to choose that option, you may have seen, well, this is going to muck up and that's going to get messed around. And I think that's brilliant for a new user to try that first, just to see what's going to happen.
As a new user, I have never used an Arch-based distro like that before, except for Manjaro. Matter of fact, that was my first impression when I installed Endeavour is, wow, this is a competitor from Manjaro, you know, because it looks so much the same, but they were so much different. But I'm just learning it. I was brand new with all the new tools and stuff like that, and I played with them. What broke, and what got fixed, and I think it's a wonderful distro.
Cool. Thanks very much, Dan. Vince, welcome to Biddle.
Hi guys.
How
you doing, Vince?
Yeah, very well. I thought that I might stop being a bit of a keyboard warrior and put my face to, what I was saying.
Glad you're here, brother. Glad you're here.
So, how did you get on with Endeavour, or have you not tried it?
Yeah, no, I tried it. I've been an Arch user for a little bit. I've been using Arco for the last 3-4 months. So I was actually quite excited when Endeavour came out. But what I did last week, I came home from a wedding after having a few sort of cheeky cognacs, and installed Endeavour then.
Oops.
And I mean, the way that I have the take on Endeavour is it's mainly about the install, isn't it? Because it's the way to make Arch a bit easier, more approachable, people just coming into Endeavour. And the install itself, whilst it works fairly well, you've still got to be careful because they on the screen that recommends what you do when you first boot up the live image, it says you should run gparted first and do the partitioning first. But then it doesn't really go on to tell you that when you run the installer, you've really got to choose the manual partitioning option, not just use the full disk, which some people might automatically do if you distros with Calamares. I mean, I imagine maybe it was in the documentation, but who reads the documentation?
Yeah, really?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I mean, I'm guessing I think Brian was saying that's something they're working on with Calamares and upstream. But as soon as I booted up Endeavour, it's got to be one of the most beautiful XFCE implementations that I have seen, and I've only seen a few because my experience in Linux is quite limited. On the updates, with what Dan was saying as well, that was one of my sort of things that I was going to criticize about it or offer constructive criticism. When you first boot it up, you hit with this huge wall of updates. It just lists them all right down the screen. That's the first time I've seen Kalu, that update little notification thing. I'm thinking maybe that could be improved a bit like what Pamac does, and it just shows you the number of updates that are available rather than having a full list. But other than that, as a basic Arch install, I think it works really, really well. As a lightly themed implementation of XFCE, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Recommended it.
Well, for Kalu, I think it would be awesome if it, as you said, worked like Pamac, where it would give you the little notification, but maybe even have an arrow there where you can click it and you can see all of the every updates you want to see, because some people want to see that and some people don't. I personally wouldn't need to see that. But yeah, that would be a great suggestion.
Yeah, that's very intimidating, that initial huge big screen. You're thinking, whoa, what's going up here? Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like when you go to your relative's house and you have that overexcited nephew that wants to tell you everything all at once, and you're like, that's kind of what it made me think of.
Is that in the blog post?
It was.
It was, okay. All right. Paul, sir, did you go last week? Your audio is still messed up, brother. Sorry. Big Pot, I'm pretty sure you saved it for this week.
No, I went last week.
See? I knew I was right.
Best predictions ever.
I'm good at predictions, let me All right, so let's get our final thoughts on Endeavor. If anybody wants to put them out there, I'm going to give mine. Basically, I think they are, number one, their distro is a distro that's out there right now that we're trying. I think what sets them apart is the people behind it and how community-minded they are. That's what sets Endeavor apart. And I think they are doing an awesome job. They need to continue doing what they're doing, because this is the kind of community we need, especially in the Arch world. The Arch world has never been, in my consideration, a very friendly place. It's maybe not so, it's maybe gotten a lot better and is not as toxic as it used to be, but it's never been a consideration to say it's very friendly. And that's what Endeavor is endeavoring to do. But as far as the distro goes, I think it looks awesome. It gives you that Arch install with not much else, which is exactly what you would want. And I am really undecided whether or not I would want them to have just an XFCE, all of the installers. So I'll be happy with whatever they go with, because either way, I think it'll be great.
Mm-hmm. And I'd have to agree with you 100% on that, and just take it one little bit further. Not only do they care about the community, but the main 4 developers want everybody to know who else within the community is helping. And Brian put out a very good blog post today mentioning their moderators and the people in the Telegram group. So they really are fostering good behavior, be nice, and let's just have a wonderful time. And like you, whether they just do 100% XFCE or whether they can work their magic on the other desktops, not fussed. It's an easy intro into Arch. I love it.
And anyone looking for the community, go search the beginning of the chat for the YouTube, because Zeb posted a link to their discourse, and I highly recommend it. It is a wonderful place.
I've got a couple of. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Colin. That's what this time is for, to give the final thought.
All right. I just had a couple of questions on the news. Now, you've got the news that pops up the same as the updates. Now, when you have a look through that news, and I did put that on my video, I'm a bit confused about what the news is about. Is that information that you should follow up regarding all those packages or dependencies or whatever they are in there? Or is that just to let you know what possible problems could arise? Can anyone explain that news?
I believe they are directly pulled from the Arch website, where they have the what is called the manual intervention. What needs manual intervention and what can cause problems. So it's basically pulled directly from there.
Yeah, it's just like a heads up. If this goes wrong, this is how you fix it. I'm not saying it is going to, but I think
Yeah, I
use case
misunderstood it like you
scenarios.
did, and I wound up blowing the key rings right out of mine, and then I had to go to the forums, and the forums, let me tell you, their forum is great. If you have a thing that pops up with your distro, don't search the whole internet. Go to their forum first, because I did just that. I searched the internet, and then it hit me. Why don't I just go look at the people that make the thing? You type in an error or whatever you're getting in their search box, and sure enough, I found someone else that did the exact same thing, and all the instructions were there to fix it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Now
I had to turn off. Sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
Vince. No, go on.
No, I was going to say I had to turn off the news notifications, because when I clicked on it, I understood nothing of what was in there. Nothing.
Yeah,
And
that was me.
that's the problem with wikis. They are not written in English. Sorry.
Bill, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things about Endeavor. First of all, since we don't have the developers here tonight, I just wanted to thank them again for Brian for showing up last week. We talk about community a lot, and I work with a group that has a great community, and these guys are like that same idea. And just like this community is Biddle, Endeavor is doing the same thing. And you mentioned, Rocco, that Arch, for whatever reason, has sometimes had that little bit of toxicity to it. And I'm not seeing that at all here. This is so awesome, so great. My only fear is kind of echoing what some people have said, is concentrating on just a few things instead of trying to do too much too quickly. But this is great. Thank you guys for taking over the spiritual legacy, Vantergos, and you guys have actually, I think you guys are doing some incredible stuff. So keep it up, and that's it.
All right, Joshua, you got some final thoughts on Endeavor?
Yeah, I totally do. And although I said amen on the tweet that Endeavor said that they got their August release out, or test build, whatever it is. I didn't try, but I just decided to take a moment to just think about Endeavor, how it's different from everyone else because of their community and everyone's hearts and the way how everyone shares each other's opinions and feelings, and everyone has an open mind to it. And the thing is, it runs fluently, and I think that it's going to grow. I think that it's going to become something huge, and this isn't going to become the next Antergos. This is going to become the next Manjaro. Mark my words.
I got the same feeling.
Say your prediction.
That's his prediction, and he's sticking to it.
So I was gonna
go on, Nate.
I was gonna make a question based on some things that some contradictory information here that I've heard just today. So I hear one of the great features of Arch is the vast array of software. Is that correct? Or am I
that is correct.
But I also heard that you shouldn't activate the AUR.
No, you shouldn't activate the updates from the AUR.
Your system updates.
Updates from the AUR. Oh, system updates. Okay.
System updates from the AUR, not
updates.
packages. Your packages, you would allow the AUR to update because that's where they came from. But allowing the system updates from the AUR and not the repositories from the distro itself or from the Arch repositories, the main repos, that's bad.
Yeah, I never do distro upgrades from GUIs. I always go into the command line and do it from there. And I don't have issues when I do it in the terminal. It's only when I use PAMAC or one of the GUIs that I ever run into issues with updates.
That is true. That is true, Dave, that you can run into issues with PAMAC with updates.
So Nate, it's almost like, so the AUR is essentially people creating packages that aren't being maintained by anyone except those people, and you're okay installing it if you can read it and make sure you know what it's doing. The PAMAC package manager has a function where it will automatically pull updates from there, which is just it would almost be like having a Git repository as a source for your software, and you just allow it to just every time something happens, it's going to update. It's just not good practice. I've run a system with PAMAC doing updates and not had any problems, but I also don't install a lot from the AUR. So maybe if I had a dozen packages or more, it would be an issue. So that's really all it comes down to. It's not like it's dangerous, or it's just more or less, it's not, like Zeb said, it's not taken into account with the rest of the system. And if you're running those, you're sort of on your own. And to have something automatically pulling them and updating them is kind of risky.
Where does Kalu pull its updates from when it wants to do the system?
From the main repositories. It's just another, it's basically a wrapper for Pacman.
Well,
So
actually, looking at the, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just looking at the upgrade simulation here, it's actually pulling from the community and the core and the
Right.
extra.
But those are all
Those are
part
all
of Arch.
Arch repositories.
And there's a multi-lib
Not
too. If you
Oh,
need
yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to
And you can set it to check the AUR as well.
Yeah.
You can, but that's what we're talking about. You don't
Right.
want-
You don't want to.
right.
No, yeah.
So then what will potentially happen, not saying it will, I don't want to upset you, Dave, because, I don't want to rock your world. But then so if that community AUR package is not maintained, then it will fall out of.
It's not that it's not maintained. It's they build it as a snapshot in time, right? And so when they're up, Arch is running all of their build processes, just like OpenSUSE, OBS, that type of thing. That all gets run against an entire set of packages, and then there's at least some automated QA that's happening. The AUR stuff is just the person who literally took the source code from somewhere, or you can do an alien transform on a deb package or an RPM package. So there's different ways that you can get the source of the software, but it's not being built in that context. It's being built at the time, literally, that they run it against their system. So as things change, if they're not coming back and rerunning the update or retesting it, and like Zeb said, I mean, if they run it against, let's say they're building against unstable for some reason, and you try to install that, it could potentially cause problems on your system.
But it's no different, Nate, than a PPA. If the maintainer of that PPA doesn't visit it for 2 years, you're running a PPA that's based on 1604 and you're now on 1910. Yes, you could run into potential problems.
Right. So unlike the open build service, it doesn't actually rerun it against the current tumbleweed
But
build.
then again,
Correct.
Nate, if you think about it, the AUR is a single address for all the community repos that are available in OpenSUSE. And not every package in every community repo is updated. So it's the same.
The other thing too,
it actually falls off. You can't actually install it. If it doesn't build, it's not a successful build, it's not accessible anymore.
Which is nice.
But it doesn't mean they're all updated to the latest version.
I mean, the AUR is not a package system. Okay, it's a build system. It's completely different. So when things coming through the OBS in OpenSUSE are packages. They are run, they are compiled, and you install the RPM package. The AUR is essentially a build script that goes and the script says, go get the source from GitHub, and it pulls it down. Okay, and make sure you have these packages installed because you need those to build the package, to build the final package. Okay, do that. Now, once the package is built, go ahead and install it against the system. So there's no compiling or anything happening out somewhere in like a build service. It's just a collection of build scripts.
Yeah. And sometimes I've had an AUR program fail because when you've gone to get a particular DLL that is so far out of date that it just won't run with your system. And then you have to go into the build script, work out where it was pointing to the defunct, DLL for want of a Windows description of it, and pull in the new version. But then there's no guarantee that new version will still contain the functionality that the original programmer built into his program. And a fantastic example of that was Clementine and MPRIS. And if the MPRIS wasn't a certain version, then a particular feature that someone built into it no longer worked, and you couldn't spam what you were playing on Clementine to anything else. And no matter what I did, it just didn't work. So yeah, it can muck up your system, but there are a couple of safeguards in there. But it's even Arch says don't use the AUR.
Yeah, and even like to Vince's point too, where you get those messages, the news items, and those are meant to tell you that something has fundamentally changed. I mean, that is what running a rolling release is about. It's a moving target. As things change, dependencies are going to change, and those news items, if something breaks, that's the way that you keep on top of. And this kind of goes back to the argument of why, and I appreciate that Endeavor is doing this. That Arch is not your first install. It's not your first version of Linux. It's just not. You need to have a little bit of knowledge and understand and be able to use the terminal. And, Vince, to your point, like not everybody's going to understand every single thing. Like I certainly don't, but I at least understand that there's something fundamental that changed if that package is installed. Like a good example of this was Manjaro when the System D update came out. What was that, earlier this year? And there was a problem with the way that they implemented the System D update that basically broke a lot of people's systems. And before they could fix it, a lot of people had updated. And so, but if they had read the news, there was a news item that said, before you run this update, know that this is going to happen and here's how you fix it. And it wasn't hard to fix. People just don't read the news. They just hit update. And especially if it's PAMAC or something that's automatically running in the tray, and they just click OK and put in your password and walk away. That's what could happen on an Arch system, on a rolling system, not just Arch.
I found what's good with the AUR is that people can actually go in there and mark a package as being out of date. So when you search the AUR, it'll actually say this package is out of date, so you can avoid those ones.
Definitely. And this also comes back to, like, I'm running an Arch system now, and I'm going to use Flatpaks or snaps or other things that are less connected to the system, which have less chance of issues like that. And so I think that idea of like the rolling release package fragility, the leaner the base system is, the less likely you're going to have issues. The more stuff you have on there, the more likely there's going to be conflicts or dependency issues. And so if you run a lean based system and then use something like Flatpaks on top of that, I think it'll end up being a little easier to maintain. And
so
go ahead.
Sorry. So Flatpaks and snaps don't go out of date either, or they do? I mean, I'm just asking.
But because they're self-contained, they have all of their own dependencies bundled together.
True. Yeah. Okay.
And that's what makes them kind of interesting and unique, is that the whole idea of containerized software is that it's got its own everything that it needs. And so it doesn't really, it's going to rely on at least some amount of the base system, but pretty much everything it needs to run. Like you think of an app image, literally everything it needs is that one file. Anyway, I did have one thought. So when I said earlier that I was looking forward to them releasing the online installer, so I do not want them to take the same path that Antergos did, where they felt the need to customize every desktop. What I'd like to see is just the ability to say, install the vanilla version of it. I don't need themes. I don't need customization. I don't need you to change desktop defaults. None of that stuff. Like, just let me, give me that base system. And then let me say, I want Cinnamon. I want Mate. I want whatever. And just pull down that set of packages and install the base. Now, if they wanted to have some branding on top of that and maybe some wallpapers, simple things like that, that's fine. But I agree that if they went down the path of maintaining that, it's just a lot of work, and it's time that they could be spending doing other things.
But that's what they are going to do. They are going to be theming each of those desktops that they send down.
Well, I wish them well on that, because again, it is a lot of work. I would be happy if they did something of the effect in the live installer where, say XFCE was the flagship version, the prominent version, and then the rest of the versions that you could install, it would just say, plain vanilla GNOME or plain vanilla Plasma.
Kevin, you madman.
No kidding.
What?
Look, Kevin just blew up your chat.
Their wallet for you.
Kevin, thank you, sir.
Boom.
You should be here.
How much of an issue, never having created a distro, an ISO, how much of an issue in Calamares would it be for a net install to have, if they're going to theme them anyway, have all the themed desktops, but then also just have tick boxes for the generics as well.
That's what I was saying. Like, I just, if it's an online installer, I mean, because that's essentially Arch is an online installer. I mean, the core install itself. I mean, you do
you bootstrap it.
Right. And then from there, you're just going to go out and install the packages through Pacman. So it just saves you the step of doing that.
All right. Any other final thoughts on Endeavor? We are out of time.
Dolphin, did you test it? I know you did.
Thank you, developers.
Did not. I've been doing something else.
Okay.
I just want to chime in, though. You guys are talking about only focusing on one desktop. If you're starting something out new, it is, I agree with you totally. It is a stupid amount of work maintaining one desktop. And unless you got a lot of people to take care of the others, what you'll end up with is a very muddy experience down the road.
No need to be such a critique. I mean, they'll probably get to it when they have time. Just be patient.
All right,
I think they did a nice job, and I still agree with what everybody else said. They could make the best XFCE version of an Arch distro because they did such a nice job with it so far. And they don't have enough people to do more than that.
What we got is what they had to put out and show us what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
It was a first run. It was a prototype.
Yep.
I'd like to say one thing. XFCE was always the worst looking one in Antigo, so at least they've turned it around in some way.
Yeah. And I was quite excited when I did my update to see that 4.14 is in there.
Yep.
It was my first use of 4.14.
Can I just come in?
Sure. Tony, go ahead.
Yeah. I've got to say, I've not used XFCE since over 10 years when I first got into Linux. And I actually fell in love with it while I was using this.
It's probably still the same.
It has gone through 2 versions.
Well, they just had an update.
That's one of the versions.
Oh, okay. Didn't they finally go to GTK3?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very much GTK3.
Yeah, I actually installed Mate during my initial install and didn't particularly like it. And I've been using Mate for over 8 years. So I went back to XFCE and I've been running it ever since. And on the install I did today, I didn't even bother installing Mate. And I really like the iteration of XFCE that they've done. It's brilliant. It just keeps out your way. It does the job. And it's fantastic.
Awesome. So there you have it. There is our take on Endeavor OS. I want to thank the devs again for being here for Biddle Europe last week, Brian, and the regular Biddle show last week as well. And this is the 3rd week we've talked about Endeavor OS. It just happened that way.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So what's our next one going to be?
Well, let
A distro.
go to the forums and see what we have here. So I'm just going to throw this in there because it was mentioned in the chat and I was actually thinking about it today. So I'm going to pick 2 of these off of this list, but I'm going to also add in Deepin as one of the choices that we should look at.
Deep?
We tried it back in December of 2018. But that was a long time ago. So we still have Regolith that we're going to put up here, and Chaos was one of the ones last week that I up there. So we have Regolith, Chaos, or Deepin.
I would say
Deepin.
Speak,
i3 fanboy.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Regolith.
Yeah, I was just going to say that because we've mentioned it a number of times.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good idea to try that one.
Regolith would be definitely different for most people.
Yeah, it would be totally different just because it's Debian based. I don't think it's really going to matter because isn't it an implementation of i3?
It is Ubuntu based, yes, i3.
Look, yeah, I think it would be good.
It's Vince's first visit. He's so happy about that idea.
Can I just say that ever since I began looking at distros to make a distro challenge. I've always been like, Regolith?
Yeah, it's a weird name, but I think it's kind of. I think we should try it.
All right. Who would rather try something else so we can get a vote up here? Or should I say, who's going to want to try Regolith?
I don't know, but I go with it.
I'd say that's pretty much a majority.
Okay.
Just put the spelling of it in the chat so you can find it.
I will do one better. We'll put the link in the chat. How's that?
That's great.
Yep.
Court has
Drop it. Let's go.
Court has been put to order.
Yeah.
Is it based on the LTS or is it 1904?
Well, I don't know.
It was the LTS, maybe. I don't remember. I looked at it once, so. But it was first mentioned.
I thought Clear Linux was another one that was discussed, was it, or not?
It is, Colin, but the way we're doing it now is there's a list of distros that are up on the forums that we're going to try that are on the list. And Clear Linux is one of those. I just narrow it down to 3, and then we pick from those.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't see. I don't remember seeing Deepin on that list though. Or
No,
is it just
Rocco said he's introducing it. Yeah.
Wow,
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Covered load.
It's the boss's prerogative.
They can do that.
So just so you know, Regolith is LTS and it's 415 kernel.
So there's a couple things about Regolith. So run the live, if you run the full installer, it's on 1804. You can also add it as a PPA to 1804 or 1904. If you want to run, if you already have a Ubuntu-based system, you want to run it, or just you want to run a simple install and put it on 1904, you can do it that way as
Bill,
well.
do you know how much that affects a system? Like, are you in danger of, if you don't want it on there anymore, you're in danger of when you remove it to break anything?
I haven't used it in that manner, so I've only done it on.
Don't do it on pop.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. I can do it, but I
So
don't
on their website under the live CD installer, they do have a release 1.1 that is based on 1904. So you can get a live CD off of either 1804 or 1904, whichever you're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The other thing is that in terms of if you look at the internals, like the number of packages it installs, it's like a handful. i3 is not very heavy. It's not a lot. So really what he's giving you, they are giving you is this simple install, which isn't a lot of packages. And then it's just a lot of customization in the dot files and stuff.
I think for the first time ever, my experience will be in a VM. I don't do i3.
I know you're not a big i3 fan,
but I'm going to go the full install on a drive.
But that's okay. A VM is fine, dude.
Okay, just so everybody knows, because I thought maybe Joshua said what was the meaning of it. Regolith is a layer of loose, heterogeneous, superficial deposits covering solid rock. That kind of makes sense when you're thinking about that they're using i3 on top of Debian or Ubuntu or whatever.
It's usually attached to things like lunar surface or Martian surface or stuff like that. Regolith being the loose rock on the surface of
right. It includes dust, soil, broken rock, and other materials.
I don't understand that whole concept.
I've taught earth science.
I don't understand the whole concept, but I think I'm a better person for knowing that.
It's the stuff on the dirt on top. How's that?
It's the odd pixels thrown around that are out of place, Rocco.
Okay.
Not soil, it's dirt.
Listen, i3 is nowhere near as painful as you guys might think. It's really good.
Okay, so does anybody have any tutorial they want to bring up for i3 or places we can go to?
It's Rocco, really simple. Go to their website and go to the Getting Started page.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the key bindings. Their key bindings are a little different than when you would do like a regular i3. You're going to do a lot of work yourself. They've done a lot of the work for you. So on their Getting Started page, they have a lot of the different stuff for what does displays. And also after you install it on the desktop, they have some key shortcuts that are like actually on the desktop so you can see. So they've tried to make it as easy as you can do it. But yeah, it's really, if you need to do a little bit of reading before you do this probably. And their Getting Started page has pretty much, it's very simply done.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're not into reading, I'm pretty sure Eric Dubois in one of his 1080 videos has something on i3.
Well, that's the thing. Finding that one that you need out of the 1,000 may be difficult.
My only
I
word of
think Derek from DistroTube has some for i3 because I know he likes i3.
He does, yeah.
So he has a couple videos out.
My only word of advice is really just take your time and don't get overwhelmed. Just understand that it is a complete paradigm shift from the idea of movable windows. You can still do that. There is a way to toggle a window and you can drag it around. But the idea of it is placing things for you, tiling it for you. And so when you open one window, it's the whole screen. You open another window, it's half the screen. You open another window and it's another third. So you just take a little bit of time. Don't get frustrated.
But you can also layer that with workspaces, maybe?
Oh, well, absolutely. That's the whole point of it. You use multiple desktops. So you have desktop 3 that's all of your browser and social media, and then desktop 2 is all, So that's, you kind of compartmentalize, like, it's all about workflow, Rocco.
Right, I know.
Does it work with multiple monitors?
Here's my one tip. Don't think you're being clever by putting on a wallpaper that gives you all of the shortcuts for i3. Because the first application you open, you can't see the wallpaper anymore.
I hate that. It's like people are always like, "Why don't you put the shortcuts in a wallpaper?" Because it lasts 5 seconds. It is. It's the same with putting it inside a Conky window. It doesn't work there either.
Yeah, you can actually multiple monitors.
You could switch desktops.
You can do multiple monitors because I have used Awesome in the past, and it works great on multiple monitors. And Awesome and i3 are very similar, so I have no doubt that i3. Another YouTuber that has some very good videos on i3 is Luke Smith.
Yes,
goes into a lot of his.
That's Derek's brother, ain't it?
Yeah, his
you know what?
cousin.
So the other thing with i3 is all about the config file. Like you hear people talk about dot files. So you can do things like every time I open Firefox, I want it to be on desktop 3. No matter what, like it just should go there,
right?
And it should take me to that desktop when I open it. So you could do things like that. And for people who love that amount of control, you can really get into the weeds.
I just thought I'd mention on the Regolith page, if you're looking for the getting started page, it's right down the bottom under next steps. Just in case you're looking for it.
All I got to say is, in some of those screenshots on Regulus homepage, there's one screenshot. Dude's got 16 desktops. That's kind of hardcore.
I've got 5 right now. But one thing I would say 16. Is that with regular, when I was, I know it's not quite. When I was learning i3, what I did was because you're into the config file so much, I left my i3 config file open so I can actually see all the key bindings, and then I can change them as you go along to what you want.
And are they instantaneous? The minute you save the file, it's like a Conky, it changes.
You save the file, and then you have to just refresh the desktop.
Yeah, you reload it.
Yeah.
Is that a Beagle or a Labrador? Dolphin.
That is a boxer lab. And
right.
She is she heard the dogs earlier and she came to investigate.
Superb.
She's pretty.
Thank you. She's completely hyper and bonkers, but thank you.
That's the lab in her.
I would have said
labs.
I would have said that's the boxer in her.
I don't know. Labs are pretty cuckoo.
All I know is she's nuts. So.
And the one that I have now is half Rhodesian Ridgeback, and they're total bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
They're very high energy dogs.
So, staying on the distro challenge subject, what do you guys think about us offering not just our opinions, but maybe what do you think about offering a rating like 1 to 4? 1 to 5 on a distro.
They're so subjective.
Yes.
I mean, if you ask Barbara to rate Antigos, she'd give 0, and someone else would give 10.
Yeah. Well, Nate would probably give Endeavor 0. Right?
No,
I don't think he'd be that generous.
No, he wouldn't be that mean.
Your final tally is going to be on how many people shows up also.
Yeah, this is true.
Normally, I come with my own rating system. 2 thumbs up is what I usually say about something. Actually, I do give it 1 thumb up. The problem is Arch.
So it's not Endeavor's fault. It's just Arch's fault, right?
No, I think it's well done. I think the installer is good, and the I think the documentation could be improved. Like a click to help. Like how do I search for something like with the terminal? Dash capital S, little s, as opposed to just capital S, which means install, which makes total sense. Something like that. That would help kind of get somebody started. But I think that it's a good distro. It's better than running Mac OS.
There's an S in there. I mean, install, right?
What I heard Nate say is that you could build a palace on a fault line, but that fault line's always going to be underneath of it, right, Nate? That's what I heard you say.
I agree with that one.
Hey, you don't, Steve?
I'm doing good, Rocco. How you guys doing?
Awesome. Hey, so we're going to try Regolith this week, Steve. What do you think?
I'll give it a shot. I had no luck with Endeavor. I was totally technically inept this week.
Why is that?
Just everything I touched was it's one of those weeks.
Yeah, you can't worry about those weeks, brother.
And I've just
Did you let
realized
the magic smoke out of your thumb? Is that what happened?
I've just realized that Colin and Sleepy must be from the same continent. They've both got their hats on. Look.
Yeah, they're both from Australia.
Yeah.
And Puffy Jack.
Oh, I
Puffy
see.
Jack.
This has gone downhill now.
Somebody mentioned before about they said
It's also Vegemite.
Install
So it went downhill or down under?
Go on, Barbara.
I have nothing to say, gentlemen.
Go on, Bob.
Okay.
Order.
Huh? I should give you that look of death that I use when I'm teaching. Teachers have I call it the feline look of death, and it's like all of a sudden everybody behaves. Anyway, I was looking on the Regolith website, and they tell you how you can install it using a PPA, just the desktop, and also how to uninstall it.
Okay.
And so what's going to happen is what you do is when your system boots up at the top, if you're using Ubuntu, and up at the top's going to be a little icon of whatever your current desktop environment is. You click that and you can change it.
Right.
And then you go and log in.
My concern was just about it messing something up when it.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, they say it doesn't. They say you have to run sudo apt remove. They have a whole order in which to do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dolphin. That normally happens when you have metadata, when you uninstall one package, which is linked to about 3 others, and before you realize it, you just uninstalled the whole desktop because you didn't watch it properly.
If the meta package is done correctly, the meta package will be removed and you won't remove everything else. Now, what they've probably got is a set of desktop setting packages and things like that that are coming in. If you remove all of that, then you shouldn't remove anything that was already there. Unless they've written some, this is Debian, so you can do some post-install scripts or things like that to overwrite some things. And then when they remove it, it might go south on you. I don't know what they had done. Maybe if they've been good little net citizens, you won't have a problem.
The
VM.
The window manager itself shouldn't cause any issues. I don't think anything, unless you've got a lot of weird additions like Polybar and some of the add-ins that you can put in. But even those,
but they're using their website says they're using GNOME settings utilities. So if you're using GNOME, you could have some interaction there.
Yes.
I would think. I haven't tried it, obviously, but that would be something to try. But I know we try to stay out of people's home folders. So as long as they're setting up configuration files outside the home folder and letting the system draw it in on first boot, on first loading of the system, should be fine. Don't know how they're doing it. So
if you're adding it to an existing setup, back up your config files before you put it on.
I'll just test it on a test machine, and that'll be done with it. Then I won't have to worry about it.
I have this Zorin drive sitting here that's a perfect candidate.
I'm going with the production system.
Sounds good.
It's not that bad.
Quick question for some up and coming weeks. When are we going to be doing MX19, Dolphin?
I don't know. There's some slack-jawed guy who's responsible for building that ISO, and he's just slacking off, having a great summer, so it hasn't happened yet. No, let me tell you, that it's around the corner. Soonish is what I'm telling people. I was hoping to get a beta out this week. We're holding off for one more internal build. So maybe as early as next weekend, but that is not firm. Don't go nobody quoting gospel on me on release dates. We don't do that.
You heard it here first.
Unless it's December 24th, you do not know when MX is coming out. If it comes out before December 24th, then it's early.
I don't know. All I heard was Dolphin said it'd be ready for us to test next week. Of course,
All
we
I'm saying
have to wait 2 weeks because
it's a buster base. It's got XFC 4.14, and this stuff, this go around, we've got stuff that no one else has. So we had to do a lot of work to keep our init system agnosticism in place, and that took a while to get set up. But someone from out in the world came forward. They helped us out, and it'll work more or less the same way MX17 and 18 did.
Excellent.
So, for the most part,
it's got top secret stuff in it.
It's not top secret. As soon as I get the stuff up on the GitHub, it'll be public. It's all there, but it's stuff that there's a whole movement inside. Well, not a whole movement. There's a lot of guys inside this Debian diversity init diversity group, and they're all approaching things a lot of different ways. And we've done a lot of the SAT stuff on the Annex side, but MX, we wanted to try to keep systemd and sysv mostly because some people like snaps. I don't know why, but people like snaps. So to have snaps, you have to have systemd. You can't go both ways. So we have to have systemd available. That took a little longer to get set up because Ubuntu was the original backer for the systemd shim package, and they abandoned it back in Ubuntu 16. It only caught up with Debian now because that's how old Debian is.
I know I have Debian.
So
I'm on it right now.
So, but that meant we have to host our own systemd. We have to have our own all kinds of other stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of things, but it is working and should be soon. And right now we're trying to figure out how to make stuff scale right with in XFCE.
So they're finalizing the recipe for the MX super secret sauce.
That's a good way to put it. Sure. Secret sauce. It's not just Thousand Island dressing. I'm just saying.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up before we move on?
Yeah, actually, Rocco, I'd like to bring something up.
Do it.
So a few weeks ago, you had El Marquez on Linux Spotlight, and recently she did a show, another show with Jupiter. She does stuff with Jupiter Broadcasting, and it's a show like the Extra Show. And she talked about she went to DEF CON and Black Hat. And on top of that, when she was there, they had a couple shows, one for women, the Diana Initiative, and another for the LGBT conference. And she talks about that. And one of the things we talked, I think Barb and I talked a little bit in the channel this week about the need to get more people that are not just dudes sitting in and talking. And this is awesome. It's really worth going and listening to her experiences and the other groups that are out there, and the ideas of thinking about how you can interact with people and getting more people in that are maybe not represented completely. So that's it.
Oh no, you're good.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, keeping Frank, you said you mentioned Linux Spotlight. I interviewed Eric Adams this week, and it will be aired on Wednesday. And we had an awesome discussion about everything Linux, obviously, and his journey into Linux. But one of the topics that came up was, or I should say, one of the themes that kept coming up was what a great time in Linux we are at. We were talking about all of the issues we used to have and all of the problems that used to come up. And yet it seems like nowadays it's almost like there's like not a, I won't say there's not, but there's hardly a bad distro out there.
Well, I mean, except for Hannah Montana.
I mean, yeah, but that's a great distro.
It just needs to be updated.
Yeah. I mean, the gist for us was, I mean, as we were getting into this, the analogy I used is like a bad car. 25, 30 years ago, a cheap car was a hateful device. Like it was unsafe. It was, just not a good thing. It didn't work very well. It wasn't built to last. And nowadays it's almost impossible to find an absolutely terrible car. They're all safe. They're all fuel efficient. They're all, creature comfort. And in Linux, in a lot of ways, it's like that too. If you used Linux 15, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe, you were going to have some problems, right? You're going to have to get in and roll up your sleeves and fix some things. And it wasn't just going to work. Whereas now it's kind of amazing and miraculous that you put an ISO on a little USB key and you stick it in the side and you boot it up and it knows everything about your system. And the one thing you might have problems with are your video drivers, but and otherwise and your Wi-Fi, right? Exactly. So still some hardware issues, basic kind of hardware stuff, but by and large, I mean, you don't even think about it anymore. You just fire it up and go.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead,
I was going to say, for me, this started about the 1404 series. That's when I started to coin the phrase, well, this is just working. And I can probably label a dozen distros today that I can put on my system and they just work. I might have one or two hiccups with NVIDIA drivers, but hey, that's always been the case. But once you get it up and running, they just work.
I mean, we spent most of the time talking about all the distros we review. Most of the time is going to be what applications are there, what the desktop is, what are the themes. Very little of it was like, yeah, I had to configure Xorg and I had to go and, get all of the crazy driver. Like it just doesn't happen anymore.
No, and you can even break that down to just the desktop environments themselves. I mean, GNOME, KDE, XF, Mate. You got all of these awesome desktops, and none of them are bad. They're all great in their own way, and they all give us a choice that a good choice that we didn't have years ago.
Yeah,
and
one of the things, sorry.
No, go, Tony.
One of the things I was going to say, it's not just that Linux has improved as far as hardware detection, it's also improved for users. I installed it for a friend of mine about 3 months ago, and I spoke to her a couple of days ago, and she says it's brilliant. It's revitalized the Windows 7 laptop that's 7 years old. I'd stuck an SSD in it for her, upgraded the RAM a little bit, and she's got a new computer for 60 quid. Whereas she was thinking of going out and spending 300 or 400 quid. And she's just using it like she was using the old Windows 7 install without even thought. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that is definitely a testament. What I was going to say is I got a crazy idea to try Windows 10 because it's been almost 2 years since I've tried it, and I had never booted it on this laptop. And the amount of effort it takes to get Windows installed and running, going to Dell's website, getting the 25 driver packages, getting all of my applications. I mean, rebooting, no joke, 20 times. I mean, it took all day to get it up, and you think it takes 12 minutes usually to install or less to install Linux, and all that stuff's just done for you.
Endeavour took 5.
Which is really bizarre because I can get Windows 10 up and running in 2 hours max with all my.
Well, I
haven't done it for a few years, so I will definitely say that I had some.
But yeah, you're right. If you have a laptop that has a whole raft of really good gadgets, tracking down those drivers is a nightmare.
Yeah. And that's not to say that the experience of Windows once all that was done was bad, because I think it's it's fine. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, but to get over a day's install, that's got to be some hell of a good interface to suddenly go, this was worth it. Or you go, oh, I missed this. Oh, let's go back to Linux. 12 minutes later, you're there.
Well, I lasted almost 2 days.
Oh.
And then I was back in Linux.
Looks like duct tape and super glue.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple things that we still need to really work on. That it's really hard because they're reverse engineering everything. Suspend, hibernation, and battery use on the laptops. And I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but Wimpy was talking about it with on Intel. Like Windows has 25 hooks into the power management system, where Linux has 2 or 3.
Wow.
And if you think about the advancements we've made just with that small number, it's still amazing. But there's just these small steps that we need to make. But it's incredible, like you said, Eric. I remember 10 years ago, it was still not super easy. But today, it's just USB key, throw it on, boom, and you're up. And I mean, we just did a distro where one of the biggest complaints was how hard Arch is to install. And we just did a distro that for almost all of us, it was easy. Boom, pop. We had an Arch install, and a real Arch install that you can, and it's awesome. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And I mean, it's lucky today. We have Tony Hughes here, who's on the Mintcast, and he's doing the Distro Hoppers Digest podcast. And they talk a lot about some of the different distros that they test out and the issues they see. And it is an incredible feat that we have, and we just need to keep going and keep bringing people. Look, we have awesome. It's easy. It's not hard. For a long time, Linux was hard. Everyone's scared. It's easy now, and we need just to bring everyone in, have these communities like Endeavor is, like Biddle is, where everybody is nice, helpful, and keep growing. And
Yep. I agree, Frank. I think that as Linux has progressed, so has the community as far as becoming open, becoming friendly. And I think we need to continue on. But you mentioned Distro Hoppers Digest. Tony, tell me, have you ran into a bad desktop environment or a bad distro lately?
Not since I started the show. I think I started off with Fedora, and then did PC Linux OS, and then Debian when that came out with Debian Buster, and all 3 of them rock solid distros. I'm going to do Endeavor for this show that's coming up at the end of August, and again, I've had a fantastic experience with Endeavor, but I'm sure along the way I'm going to I've got to find something that's terrible.
I honestly would be hard pressed to find something that's terrible. I think the last time that we did something that was just terrible, I don't know. Can you guys remember?
Well, see, terrible is all a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
Because you'll never get me to put KOS back on my system. Why on earth you would want to go right to left on any system, I'll never know. So for me, KOS is terrible, but other people out there love it. But I just wanted to pick up on a comment that Adam made in the chat, because he's not here at the moment. And he says, seems unfair to talk about installing Windows as a negative when most people just go and buy a laptop, open it, log it in, run the updates and use it. They never have to install it.
This is true. Most people don't. But for anybody that
very good point
did any kind of tweaking or anything, let's put it this way. I am sure that 99% of us here who ran Windows at one time had our fair share of installing Windows. So
I personally love Windows installing. I just find it fun for some reason, and especially the Windows 2000 installation.
Well, like I said, he is right. Adam is right. I mean, most people are not going to go and install Windows, but I think it's relevant to this conversation because of the people in it. So.
Can I say that I've always had to reinstall Windows sooner or later?
Why is that?
There's always an issue sooner or later.
Bit rot.
Yep.
Actually, on one
registry
of my
route.
other disks, I have Windows 10, and I run their Fastring Insider program. So I'm basically reinstalling every week to week and a half, and it's even just basically doing a update reinstall is an hour and a half of setting up, downloading, installing, and then, like Adam said,
Oh, hang on. I'm on the Insider program at all, and I don't have to reinstall anything other than their base downloads that they give you. Everything that I've got installed in my Insider window is still the same. And you're right. I mean, the original Insider Windows probably took an hour and a half, 2 hours to do. But now sometimes you'll get a new build and it's done in 20 minutes.
It
depends on the size of what they're sending you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it relevant to the conversation, though, if you want to go put Linux on any machine, buy a machine with no operating system on it, and look at the difference between installing Windows and Linux, then it's going to be a huge different story because you have to go looking for drivers for that machine.
Of course you do.
And all that sort of thing. So,
But other than online, you tell me a shop where you can go in and buy a PC without an iOS on it.
Well, the other thing is that's not entirely true because Windows has generic drivers for most hardware out there. It's just if you want to get the full use of your hardware, you have to get the individual drivers. But generic drivers, Windows comes with generic drivers for as much hardware as Linux does.
Yeah. Yes, and actually, Windows Update or Windows 10 actually installs full drivers if it has them. Like for example, for NVIDIA card, for AMD card, for processor, stuff like that is installed automatically.
The TV computer in the other room has, I don't know, it's an AMD system. It's got some fancy schmancy gaming Ethernet port on it. Okay, I don't know what it is. All I know is Windows, I had to install the drivers before I had a network connection, but I can boot in my MX USB right off the thing and get one right away. I don't know why that is.
Well, to Big Pod's point, to Big Pod's point, so if you can get online, Windows Update will install drivers.
Yeah,
for
if you can get online, it'll nab them. But
yeah,
you gotta get online first.
But that's true of, I think, any computer. If you don't have a network driver on whatever, and you're right, Dolphin, like, a lot of, but if you have the wrong Wi-Fi card, no Linux is gonna.
No, and that MX distro was just put out by a brilliant guy. So I mean, how can you compare it to anything?
Right.
I'll let Steve-O know you said that. He'll be happy about.
I'd also like to point out, just so we're clear on this, that Adam was right. Okay, just so we're all want to make sure he heard me say that. Recorded.
Well, we had talked about last week about doing a discourse post discussion here. So we would take a post from discourse, talk about it here. I think this is a perfect one for that, for this week. So this post is from Sean, or his username is Acid Monkey. He has been around for a long time, been around since the beginning of my channel, since the beginning of Destination Linux. And this is what he posted. Just wanted to share something I thought was pretty cool. Last school term, I was helping my daughter, who is in high school, with some homework, and she brought her 11-inch Chromebook, which is school issued, to him so he could help. And what a terrible experience that was. So sluggish and such a tiny washed out screen. So I'm going to skip some of this to shorten it a little bit to get to the relevant stuff. So he ended up looking for a refurbished laptop for his daughter. He found one. He installed Pop! OS on it. It's a Dell Latitude 12-inch, 4th generation i7, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gigabyte SSD for $260. He put on Pop! OS, he set up Google Classroom, custom keyboard shortcuts, wallpaper, and then spent 5 minutes going through keyboard shortcuts, workspaces, and updating it. So 6 weeks on, she's not only is still using it, but she loves it. She's downloaded GIMP, Darktable, Kdenlive, and DJ Tool, and she's off exploring her possibilities and realizing her potential. She even managed to get it hooked up with her organ, and she says to me she doesn't know how to get work. She doesn't know how she got work done before. So he says we quite often talk about how good Linux is or how much better or safer it is than Windows, but we don't always talk about the potential positive effect it has on young people and their ability to be creative and explore opportunities and interests without restrictions of paid proprietary software. So his two conclusions are: one, that is, why don't more schools adopt a Linux platform? I'm sure that's a bigger topic than we can cover here. And two, is this why we need a simple distro? It's more than fine for people to nerd out, and it's fun. It's fine to have Linux, but it's fine to have Linux for the masses, but it's most important that we look after our youth and give them the opportunity to flourish in a world dominated by tech, and Linux has every tool available to achieve that. So I thought that was pretty awesome. What do you guys think?
Barb, what do you think about school? Why don't we?
Okay. Where I teach, in fact, most of the school districts in the county that I live, the kids use Chromebooks. They use Chromebooks because they're cheap. $125, $150 for a Dell Chromebook. And if the kid gets mad and throws it across the room and it breaks, well, they're out $150. I think it would be good. I mean, when I'm in school, I use my laptop. I don't use the desktop machine that they give me at my desk. And actually, I've gotten kids to talk to them about using Linux. And I think it's better. And I think you can have better control of where they go. I mean, yeah, they block all sorts of stuff with the Chromebooks, but the kids get around it and they still get to Pornhub. So, and that's really what happens. And I think with something like Linux, you can minimize that. I think you have that ability.
Well, you might have the ability, but
we don't have
a lot of schools,
the know-how.
There's the key. In a lot of school systems, the school system that I live in included, and actually most of the school systems around me, the IT people were not originally IT people.
Correct.
Our IT person used to be the band director. And he's a fantastic band director. He keeps things running in IT. That's all I can say.
But they don't know.
If you gave him a Linux machine to maintain, that would be a whole new world beyond where he's trained to do. And hey, I'm in corn country, man. Qualified Linux admins don't grow on trees here. And so there's a certain level of hand-holding with something like a Chromebook to where they hit the master reset button, it's all wiped off, and
that's what they do.
Yeah, and that's the end. And that's the end of it. Now, you want to have a Linux notebook, you want to throw Chrome on it, you basically got a Chromebook, right? So in a way, that could be the same kind of deal. But asking a small school system, which would have might be attractive from an IT budget standpoint, I don't know, to provide that person who already has Linux server admin training, might be out of the range of a lot of school systems.
Yeah, I think it would be out of the range of most school systems. Where I live, it is basically rural. We've got Binghamton right nearby, but that's only 50,000 people. It's considered a rural city, and they can't afford. They go with what they can afford and the ability of the people to support it.
Our school system has 8,000 people in it. That's not students. That's people.
That's people. Total students and staff.
Students. That's people. That's
students.
That's tax base.
People include staff, custodians, principals.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the farmer down the street.
Right, he's got more cows. There are more cows around there. Probably.
There's in fact probably more acres of corn than there are students. It's rural, man.
And the thing is, like where I live in this area, yeah, we've got a university with an engineering school, but guess what? Most of them are not running Linux, which absolutely floors me.
Wait, you know what? It's so funny though. My kid's in CS right now at a relatively major university, and he did not know he was using the Linux GNU compilers. Because he had a list of instructions for compiling his C code that included logging onto a server and executing a bunch of commands. I took one look at the commands, like, dude, you're logging into a Ubuntu server and you're running a GNU compiler. He goes, oh, well, I need to be able to do that from home. I tossed him a USB stick, said, go to town. You know, it's you're ready to go. People are using it and they don't even know.
They don't know.
That's how pervasive it is in the back end.
Yeah, they don't know it. But you know, like around here, the IT department, it's usually teachers who got burned out from teaching, and they know enough stuff in Windows to get through and fake it.
And I don't know if it's the same in your country, but certainly in the UK, you've got absolutely no chance of getting Linux into the school systems because there isn't a Linux company out there that's big enough to give the government a backhander to do it.
There's another reason. For instance, there's a very large company that makes software products that do not work on Linux called Adobe. And Adobe offers very, very large incentives for high school and middle school and colleges for free software. And that software only runs on Windows and Mac. And so you have an entire, and this is nothing against Adobe, it's great that they get this stuff, but you know, that stuff immediately removes Linux from use. And then you have another problem with printing. A lot of places require specific software for the students to be able to print. And that software runs on Macs, Windows, and Chromebooks. And so you created a world where Linux, you have, you know, I know people that are taking college courses for Linux, doing Linux IT admin classes, and can't use what officially is supported by the university is not a Linux machine. So it's like a never-ending cycle where we have created some things where to do what you need to do as a student officially, because you can do some hacking things that never occur, like you talked about with Pornhub or trying to hack the print server systems. But most students don't do that. So they kind of get buttoned up to, I need to use this. And if I need to use this piece of software, which, you know, it's smart for the companies to offer. I mean, it's smart for Adobe in a business sense to offer all this stuff for the university, and then they're going to have to buy systems to use that software. So it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, Adam just made a good point. So Linux isn't used in education because Linux lacks the tools for managing large deployments of desktops, which is absolutely true. And that's where Google has done well with Chromebooks, is that you can support a large pool of them and have policies and images and all that kind of stuff. And it's just difficult, much more difficult. That's just something Linux has never been particularly great at. But I was the one squeaky wheel at my company who I would run Linux partially just to annoy my IT group and partially just because I wanted to. And you know, I tried to get everything running that I could, and I would still use Windows when I had to. But I remember, you know, they'd want to log in and install McAfee, and I'd be like, yeah, go right ahead. And it'd be Linux, and they'd just look at me, you know, it's like, what is this? And so, I don't need McAfee, you know, you can try to install it, but it was just, it's difficult to swim upstream against a lot of this stuff. You know, the established enterprises there, whether that's a school or a business. You know, I think Rocco and I talked about this in the Linux Spotlight, you know, the idea that Linux is somehow going to come in top down and take over some space, especially on the desktop side of things. I mean, Linux has already won on the server side. It really has. I mean, there's still use cases for Windows servers and other things, but for the by and large, you know, the enterprise is the internet, everything's running off of Linux, right? To Dolphin's point, you know, people are compiling software they don't even know, but it's a Linux server farm somewhere, you know. So the idea that somehow they're going to come in and take over the desktop space. And, you know, to Michael's point about marketing, I mean, there's so many threads that have been going around lately about these sort of same topics. And I think it's more of a grassroots thing. You know, the year of the Linux desktop is the year that you figure out that you like it and you want to use it. And it empowers you to do things with your computer that you could never do before. And, you know, his daughter having access to that system, maybe that opens doors for her and makes her interested in technology in a way she never was before. And all of a sudden she's like, hey, I could do this, you know. And that's really cool. My daughter's 7. She has my old laptop and it's got Peppermint on it. And, you know, that is the computer she's going to use. Yeah, exactly. That's the computer she's going to use. Because fortunately, a lot of the stuff they do now is just some website somewhere. It's not the proprietary software it used to be. And I'm sure she'll have to use a Chromebook or Windows at some point, or Mac or whatever, and that's fine. But I want her to at least know that the option exists and that she has the power and the capability to control her own experience.
Yep.
I just wanted to pipe in a little bit here. I come from BC, before the computer. I didn't really have any exposure until I was probably a sophomore in high school. And I joined the computer club. We had a bunch of TI 99 4As in there, and we used to play around with those. Nobody knew what they were doing. And then we actually got a computer lab. We had, I think, maybe 10 Apple IIe's, and we actually got some computer classes that were based off the math classes. And so one of the social studies teachers was the computer lab teacher. And that's where I learned Pascal and ProDOS off of the Apple and stuff like that. And it kind of grew from that point. But I mean, back then, nobody knew what they were doing. And nobody knew what this personal computer thing was. All you had that was any serious computing were the big resource and time sharing systems that were in computer installations that you leased lines to connect, and IBM mainframes were never owned by anybody, but IBM is always leased out to somebody. Stuff like that. It has changed so much. It has become so much personalized, and Linux, as much as we like Linux and like what it gives us and stuff like that, it's still based off of a kernel that is a time source or time sharing and user sharing space. And there isn't any reason why you need that kind of power on the desktop. And what I was thinking earlier today was maybe it should just come down to a single user experience where you don't have the multiple terminals and whatever. You have the GUI that pops up. That might start breaking in and some making inroads, because now people may not see it as a geeky thing, and that it's going to be too complex for me to run and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. It's just a thought that popped in my head this morning.
Tony?
Yeah, I was going to say Joshua Lowe, who's one of my fellow hosts on Mintcast. He's only 15. He's still in high school, and he has to run Windows so that he can do his schoolwork because the school insists on it. Part of the problem in the UK, and I think Zeb will probably know this, is that the school system in this country has got fragmented with the academy system and all that. And there isn't the base anymore that local authorities can actually get together to maybe look for a Linux host and source to actually deploy it in multiple schools, because all the schools now are independent entities and they don't have the resources to be able to get it around all the schools.
Well, I will say that pretty much all the computers, they run Windows 7 and they're trying to get it up to Windows 10. But I would say that the only reason most people reject Linux is because they run it in a virtual machine and they see it slow. You need to try it on actual hardware. That's when I realized, oh, wait, Linux is great and Windows is just an old piece of garbage. So, yeah, but, it's going to be more or less impossible to convince that to the school district because, that's the world.
Well, I think there's also another thing you've got to look at, and it's a marketing thing. When I was in college, and it's a university, but I still say when I was in college, the big industry in this area in Broome County was IBM. IBM provided to the university all the computer equipment. So yes, and the mainframe and everything, because they wanted to have a whole bunch of their people, their employees, and educated in, get their masters in computer science or system science at the time. And what they did, they provided the computer center, they provided all the terminals and everything. And what did you learn? You learned the programming languages that IBM used, which was PL1 and APL. And actually, yeah, but that actually came out from the Navy through Grace Hopper. But in terms of IBM, they did not look that much at COBOL because that was not their language. Their language was APL and PL1. And oh, well, for the sciences, we'll give you a Fortran compiler. And so that concept of having like a one company system, it's just changed from mainframes. Now it's Chromebooks. Earlier in the 80s and 90s, in the early 90s, it was Apple. It was pre-Mac, some of them. And then it just changes. Whoever gives the schools, the universities, whatever, the best deal. And that's what they go with. Mm. And at least that's what they do around here. I don't know about any other place. I just know what they do in Broome County. But then in the actually in the late 1980s, early 1990s, IBM, which their main place was in Endicott, which is like just across the river from me, they packed up everything, like 9,000 employees, and they left 1,500 employees and sent all the others to Charlottesville or Charlotte and Boca Raton and Houston and so on. And so they basically shrunk it all down. Then the university and the schools had to say, ooh, we're going to have to now get the stuff ourselves. And then they started looking around and finding the one with the best deal, where they could get the best support for the least amount of money. That's what it really boils down to. It's a money issue. And no, you're not going to find Linux admins around here.
Big Pod?
I go to school right now, so I can give you an insight in how it's Slovenia. Basically, at my school, I'm one of the only guys who will standardly carry a laptop, even though we are IT school, IT class. And when we do classes about computers, we run Windows. And even I, who have my own laptop, I cannot present using, let's say, LibreOffice, because I have to use Classroom computer to present, because it's connected to the
smartboard
system. Yeah. And that's why I need to run Windows to have PowerPoint. And even if I want to print something in school, the best printer they have, so it's like nice paper and all that, I have to run Windows to have Word, because otherwise I cannot load it up and to be nice in the system they have there, because it's Windows. It's like that. And it's always you have to run Windows, because that's what school uses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is another great conversation that could probably last all night, but we are out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, we always bring up the good conversation very last. Well,
because it's such a good conversation, we don't want it to end.
Well, I do want to thank Sean Acid Monkey for the post. It was awesome to hear the story of getting your daughter on Linux, and how much to allow her to do what she wants to. But everybody gets the last word. Easy.
I know we try all of these distros and we talk about how great everything is, but I just want to bring back, for me, the distro that means the most. We have a fantastic community. We have a friendly forum, and it just works. Peppermint OS. Big thumbs up, guys. Keep up the work.
Peppermint for the win.
I'm going to second that, because I'll tell you that I tried a lot of distros on that laptop, and it's an older laptop, and Peppermint was lovely.
Yep.
Bam.
Nate, last word, sir.
Hey, thanks again for having me. Appreciate it. It's always fun. This is my virtual lug that, I think, except I might have irritated Dave now, so I apologize. But outside of that, I really enjoy seeing everybody, and look forward to next week.
Take it. Tony Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Rocco, for making all this possible. Just to call out to Dolphin over there to say thanks for MX and the 32-bit. It rescued a 32-bit machine that I've still got kicking around the house this week. So that was great. But it's been a blast, and hope to be able to join again sometime in the near future. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Good having you, Tony.
Thank you.
Tony, second Tony.
Hi. Yeah, I just like to say thanks, Rocco, again, like I do every week, for doing this, and to Zeb for doing all the other bits and pieces in the background that needs to be done to keep it running smooth. I've already installed Regolith on the laptop.
Wow.
And I'm staring at a long list of keyboard commands to do anything. I don't think I'm going to like this too much.
Arch number
Tony,
2. Let's go.
this is why we give it 2 weeks now. So you just take your time, brother. Take your time.
I think I'll have to, but I will give it a try, and I will let you know how I get on. So take care, everybody, and I'll hopefully see you all next week.
Colin, last word.
Well, my USB is in the machine, hasn't been started yet, but yeah, I downloaded Regolith, I think, in June sometime. So I've had the ISO sitting there. I think it's the 1904 one. So looking forward to trying this out. I want to see what this i3 thing is all about and what people are going on about. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether I can adapt to this workflow, so to speak. It'd be very interesting. So, yep, once again, thanks for this forum here, Rocco. It's great. Thanks, Seb.
Eric, last word.
I think it's worth trying i3 just to do it. If you're a Linux user, it's sort of the heritage of, it's like use Vim at least once, right?
There's Zeb shaking his head.
He doesn't have to agree. He got his last word. I'm getting mine. No, I think it's worth trying a tiling window manager just to see what it's about. I mean, I don't doubt that most people, I don't use one because it's not the way I use a computer, but I see the merit of it. If I had a workstation at work in an environment somewhere where I needed these windows to be open and only those windows, like I would absolutely be using i3 in that context. So anyway, take your time. Relax. It's okay. It's just Linux. Not going to hurt you. And I also say I'm on hours, I think 6 of streaming today because I decided I was going to learn how to stream. And I'd like to thank everybody that was very patient with me in all of my horrible streaming efforts in the last 2 days. But I liked it, and I'm going to keep doing it. And so I'd love to have people stop by and say hi. I'm just going to talk about things, and it's fun. It's this group of people, so I'm talking to all of you. It's,
right.
Yeah.
The addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got the gold star because I was first.
Colin was my first chat visitor. And Steve was my first Jitsi partner. So there you go. Big day.
Nice. Chris, last word.
Well, not much other than looking forward to dealing with the tiling manager. I've wanted to delve into that before, and now I guess I have an excuse to see what it's like and so on, and go over and tell Derek that he's inspired me to do something. Something that's non-computer computer related. Pop over to my channel and see my ride in a 1914 Buick, and that was quite an experience today. So
nice.
You want to put a link in the Zoom chat, and we'll post it in the YouTube chat?
Sure.
Bill, last word.
Rocco, Zeb, Eric, thank you for all the work that you do. It's great to see Tony Hughes and Vince here. It's great to see new people. And I wanted to do a shout out for Discourse. Steve, which Rocco talks about a lot, has finally joined.
Yep.
And he has does some of the greatest posts. So I'm plugging it and I'm not getting paid to plug it, but jump in and see what his handle is Lyman6. jump in and read, because he has some of the most interesting long form posts you're going to read. And it's just great to have everybody in this community together.
Dude, I was so happy when he joined Discourse because, you know, he sends emails every week, and he still sends emails every week, even being on Discourse, and it's awesome. But for him to be able to interact with each of you guys, because like I said, he knows everybody. He knows all the ways you guys are, like what you like. You know what I mean? So for him to be able to interact with you guys on Discourse and to see that is awesome. Aris, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream. Looking forward to the first window manager. I think that it was in open box on Biddle challenge. And I also have a parting thought that about the education system and then the using Chromebooks. I think it's kind of sad to have all these kids being tracked through all these years from like when they're like 1 year in first grade all the way through high school. And that's it.
That is a final thought that could go on for 3 hours.
Yes.
But it's a good thought.
We are
Dave.
bored. You will be assimilated.
Dave, last word, brother.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Zeb. Thank you, Eric. Nate, I'm sorry I don't share your green shaded eyewear, but I am perfectly happy with OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. But I guess for this week, my final word is, yeah, Linux no longer has to hurt.
Yep. Barbara, last word.
Okay, as always, I want to thank Rocco and company for what you guys do. And just so you know, I'm going to try the Regolith, just the desktop. I have an old machine that's running Ubuntu 1904, and I will put it on just the desktop and see what happens. And then take it off. And if it trashes the machine, it trashes the machine. It's not my daily driver.
I think you're turning into a distro hopper, Barb.
No, because I don't keep them on. As soon as I'm done, it goes back to whatever.
Dan.
I'm just interested. I'm just curious about this one.
Like Barb, I have this disk here with Zorin on it. We're going to see if Regolith will go on top of Zorin. And that way I'll have all my files and everything on it as I did the last time we tested Zorin. And it should rock the world, man. I knew you guys sooner or later were going to steer me right into a big pile of window managers. But thank you for the show, and thank you for allowing me to be here with you guys. It's always good to see you.
Vince?
Thanks, Rocco. Thanks, Zeb. And also Eric. I know you do a lot of stuff on the website and the Discourse. Thanks, guys, for making my first time as painless as possible. It's awesome. And I got i3 running on initially on Linux Mint, and it worked great there. So I think you guys should have no problems. And my final word would be, I am absolutely addicted to the community, and the Linux is just a bonus.
Yep. Awesome. Well, it's your first, but hopefully it won't be your last, Vince.
It's contagious.
Right. Vince, you got to come back, man. Vince, Tony, it's so great to have you here. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
As Chris said, you have been assimilated.
Yes. Resistance is futile.
Paul, did you ever get your audio working, dude?
He's been waiting all night for that.
Oh my
dude,
God.
that is so awesome.
Rip.
I love it.
Man.
Rest in
Well done, Paul.
Well done. Big Pod, last word, brother.
While I'm not happy about i3 because while I do like tiling, i3 is bad. But I will see how much I will actually spend on it because I'm gonna be doing some more work on packages for Duplisig, and that's what most of the 2 weeks will spend on.
Well, Duplisig is what Big Pod is referring to, is the program, and I should have mentioned it this week. Last week I mentioned about the photos and duplicate photos and trying to find them and remove them, and Magnus, who was on the Europe Biddle, went out and created what is now called Duplisig and had been working on it, and I even submitted a bug. Very much.
Yeah, quite quickly.
And it was fixed within a day. So check it out. I'll try to get a link real quick. Peter, last word.
I can get the link.
We in the Linux world love to use the word free. Very quick story on that. Here in Kentucky, someone else likes the word free because I took our old toilet, placed it on the street, and overnight a curb shopper took it. So they got a toilet for free.
Wow.
Okay.
It's not one.
God love Kentucky.
I mean, I don't have nothing for that. I got nothing. Dolphin, last word.
Okay, number one, belated birthday. Happy Debian Day to all the Debian crew out there. You're 26 years old. That means you can rent a car without your parents' permission. And, by the way, those same parents have to drop you off their health insurance. So sorry, buddy. You're paying for your own well child visits. Beyond that, Antics 19 Beta 3 out now, as in it's on DistroWatch now. So go download it and test it now because we're getting close. And MX Beta 1, soonish.
Stop teasing.
How are those bots doing?
Well, I don't know. I heard the MX guy tell us that it was the regular
Available
version
for
was
next week. Yeah,
next week. So
Yeah, imminent.
That guy's been spreading rumors.
Steve, last word.
I want to thank you for Linux Spotlight. Wednesday mornings have been like Christmas. Kind of see who's on. I get ready for work. Now I got to wait to see Eric. Jeepers creepers. Awesome. Peter giving away the crap, I tell you. But Zeb, happy
Literally.
Later, guys.
All right, Joshua, last word.
Perfect.
That's the perfect last word. That's a perfect last word.
I was gonna say
Joshua's
Get it, Josh.
Stupid thing on phone keeps on crashing. Okay, so happy Debian Day, as mentioned. I might as well just draw a picture of the Debian logo and throw it out my window. But aside from that, yeah, thanks again, Rocco, for hosting the show. Thanks to the Endeavor devs. I also realized that the school district could save about $500 with switching to Linux. But yeah, you know, Telegram's open if anyone wants to discuss that. Except for me stuffing. And yeah, okay. I know Rocco's getting bored, so I'll just skip to the ending and say I'll reveal the Ubuntu Cinnamon big thing tomorrow on Twitter at Ubuntu Cinnamon. And now I'm going to shut up because everybody wants me to. Goodbye.
We love you, Josh. It wouldn't be the same without you.
Gold star.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for us. Our distro challenge for the next 2 weeks will be Regolith. So if you want to check it out and you need some help, you can join us on the Telegram group. Zeb will be on the Telegram group giving pointers for i3 all week long. So I definitely want you to see that.
Eric. This is your fault. Okay.
24 hours a day for the next fortnight.
I just found a spare part.
Listen, Zeb, if you're willing to spend, how many hours are you into that Gen 2 install now?
Not enough.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is when you get it all done, put i3 on top of it, and you do stuff.
All right, so I want to ask you to watch Linux Spotlight Wednesday. Eric Adams will be on there. Tony and Vince, it was great having you both, and I hope you both come back. I know some of you have commitments, and I want to thank Easy, my friend, for all his help since the beginning.
Very welcome. I really enjoy doing it.
All right, that'll wrap it up, and we will see you next week. But until then, long live Linux.
Long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. How's
everyone.
Adios. Adios.
Oh,
Adios.